Done.
Great. All right, we are live streaming to all the wonderful people on Facebook. Good morning, my name is Alicia Orsini and I am the president of Women in Film and Video of New England. And today we are celebrating the filmmakers of the 29th Woods Hole Film Festival. And we have a really exciting group to talk to first thing this morning from all over the place. So first thing I'd like to do is first remind everybody who's watching that, hey, you can go watch films right now. You can get your tickets at woodsholefilmfestival.org and they are screening through August 1st. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, you can do them. And you're going to meet some filmmakers this morning whose films you absolutely need to see. So let's go around the room and introduce you to these wonderful people. So first up, I'm going to come to Inka.
Hi everyone, I'm Inka Questwell. I'm a marine biologist and a filmmaker, and I was the self-shooting producer director on My 25, The Ocean Between Us, which was a film about shifting baselines and how much the ocean has changed in just my lifetime.
Wonderful, thanks for being here. Now, Russ.
Hi, my name is Naura Sager, and I'm a filmmaker in Sweden. I've done the short film 1-1. Which is about a man who's about to go on a sex date, and the sex date gets crashed by their friends, Amira and Samir. So it's a short comedy.
Wonderful, thanks for being here. We have, excuse me, Wyatt.
I worked on a short film with Maddie and Justin called Oh Sorry. It's about the struggles of this girl and everything happens in one night, and it's written by Maddie and directed by Justin.
Great, so Maddie, over to you.
Hi, I'm Maddie, and I worked on Oh Sorry with Wyatt and Justin. I wrote it and acted in it with Wyatt, and it was a real blast all around.
Great, and Justin, we'll come to you.
Everyone, I'm Justin Giddings, director of said short. Got to work with those two wonderful actors and wonderful writer. And yeah, it was a really fantastic experience, both to shoot it and to work with them to sort of develop the project.
Great, thanks so much. I'm going to come to Caroline.
Hello, I'm Caroline. I wrote and directed short film Stalling It and produced it with my co-producer, I co-produced it with producer Gemma Moore. She is ace producer, and yeah, so we're part of It Curls Productions, and Stalling It is a short comedy set in the toilets at a wedding in the 1980s.
Great, thank you so much. I just love it. All right, and then I'm coming over to Samantha.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I wrote and produced Bliss's Orange. It's a near future sci-fi rom-com about finding the one, and Jenna directed it.
And Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna Cannell and I directed Bliss's Orange.
Well, I'm so excited to speak with all of you. So for everyone's understanding, I sat down and I watched all of your films as a package. So for me, you know, the overarching theme was personal connections. You know, what are the connections you're either making in Inka's case with the ocean and kind of her father, or stalling it with your girlfriends in the bathroom. And Caroline, I actually want to go ahead and start with you, because this film, it's simple and hilarious, and you packed so much into it. I loved everything from the costume design, you're hearkening to the 80s. Tell us where this film came from.
Well, it actually started, the idea of it started when my best friend got married, and I oh, it's so embarrassing. It was the day before her wedding, and she told us all to go and get like suitable pajamas for the pictures. And I went in about 40 different shops and couldn't find any pajamas, and had a little meltdown in a supermarket called Asda. And I was standing next to like Wonder Woman underwear, and I was like, I can't find any pajamas. And my best friend was like getting married, had a mortgage, had a 4x4. And I was like, when was the memo of this growing up thing? And then, yeah, I did the natural thing and went home and wrote a film about it. And then yeah, and then me and Gemma started working on it, developed it, and Gemma came in with the 80s idea to set it in the 80s, and she brought some amazing like super creative twists to the story, and then we developed it together, and then made it.
I love how there is just conversation, like, so for those of you who haven't seen the film, it pretty much takes place in these bathroom stalls, and it's these three young women, but at some point another voice pops in. It's just somebody else in the bathroom who's added to the conversation, and the comedy of this is hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
So were you drawing on any personal experience from the many trips? Conversations?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never been in a public bathroom where, especially on a night out, where there aren't like 20 conversations happening, and you've got like the people who are sort of butting in and being like, I love your skirt, and oh, your lipstick looks amazing, and all of that stuff. And I thought it's quite a fun thing to sort of draw on, especially because in the film, like one of the characters in particular, she's going through quite a big life-changing experience, and to have like the input and trying to connect the support of the friends, and then also the support of the additional person who's on the end stall, who's like chirping in with her input. It kind of resonates with my experiences of nights out. So
well, I want to go from your film over to One for Now Rest. What a ride your film takes us on for a night out. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the film.
Okay, so One is a romantic comedy, and it's the first time that Amen meets Jonas. And I wanted to capture those dates that are just magical, where you meet someone and everything just takes crazy turns and you have no idea what's going to happen. And it just somehow turns out magically and cute and very romantic in a way. Yeah.
I just love the friend characters in this who are pushing to be there and to hang out, and the prank that happens, if you want to speak a little bit about that.
Well, I kind of write from like my own experiences, and so many of my friends have like figured out that I'm pretty much all of the characters in this film. Yeah, or actually it was the actors who are like, we're all playing you, aren't we? I'm like, maybe. So basically this prank we have done in reality. I did it once, and it didn't turn out quite as romantic as in the film, but it was hilarious and crazy. I'm not seeing the guy today.
Oh, darn. But have you seen the film?
Sorry?
I'm wondering if the guy has seen the film, or if you just like said.
I have no idea. It's out on the Swedish television now, so he might as well have seen it.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
But I do kind of love that you've written yourself into all of the characters, which is that's such a writer filmmaker thing to do sometimes.
Totally. Yeah.
And I want to talk to you real quick about the filming of this, because it feels a little like, it's a celebration. There's some fun jump cuts in it from, I don't want to give too much away, but I will say you got me in the very end. Like, you gave me a moment of doubt right at the end until I got it. And it was like, you're all like, what's she talking about? We're gonna have to go watch it. But there's that first date tension in there, but there's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what was the filming of that like for you? Now, because you're in front of the camera, who's behind the camera for you for that?
Wait, I'm not in front of the camera.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Yeah, see, I believed you were in front of the camera.
No, I just have actors that kind of look like me as well. No, I was
I'm like, I'm looking at you and going, oh, his hair has gotten really long. So then, okay, so then as a director, where you've got these people that are playing in front of you and you want them to kind of embody that joy and that fun, what was that like for your actors?
I mean, we worked quite a lot on it, and we met many times, and we had yeah, and some of the actors I know them from before, especially the girl, and like knowing me, they know what kind of vibe I want to create, because we have that vibe going on all the time around here, and my actors are very well aware of the quirkiness, the craziness, the extra. So yeah, and we worked. I mean, they really did a good job in keeping it for the actual filming and having that energy and having so much fun. And they were, especially in the party scene, they were really enjoying themselves, and we put on some really fun music for them, and they were just having a really good time. So
and this is a very sex positive film. Can you, and you mentioned that a lot of the work that you're doing is with LGBTQ communities, and so talk a little bit more about the sort of the underlying, yeah, it's a fun film to watch, but there's an underlying mission with this film.
Yeah, definitely, especially since it's still very difficult for queer Arabs to be openly gay and openly accepted by their families, and both, I mean, of course, mostly in the Middle East, but everywhere as well. So it's very important for me to make these sort of films to kind of create something, just to portray these images of queer people that are actually living their lives and having a good time, even though you know, a lot of my films also focuses on the hard times as well. So yeah.
Well, like, there was definitely a sense of you know, this is chosen family in the film. You know, these are a good support system, and it was just a joy to watch. And I want to actually come over now to Wyatt and Maddie and Justin for Oh Sorry, because you're also dealing with some family, you know, leaning on each other. But Maddie, your character is kind of on her journey as well, and maybe not landing in such a happy place. So tell us about the film.
Yeah, definitely. I think Oh Sorry was something that was one of those ones we also went back and forth with the comedy and drama of it, because it was, I think, ended up being a little bit of a more of a drama, but also a dark comedy in certain ways that we were able to find through the process. But yeah, Carly is a 20-year-old, and she and her brother lose their parents, and she's kind of forced to take the role of parent, but can't really do that because she's immature and blocks a lot of things out. So Wyatt's character, her little brother, has to parent her, and is getting a little bit tired of it, which is, you know, art imitates life. And it's, yeah, and then Justin directed and also was really there for a lot of the rewrite process, which was really nice and a gift, because he was also going to see it. And then Wyatt was second unit directing, so we were all able to work together from the early stages, which is really nice as well. I don't know if you want to speak on it as well, Wyatt and Justin.
Yeah, being able to, I mean, it was kind of my first directing experience as well. So being able to work with Justin, and even something as simple as scouting locations and trying to figure out how to utilize the space that we'd been given, and how, you know, how to make a camera move through the space was really, it's just really eye-opening, and it was a really fun experience to work with everyone on that.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. The When I first got the script, I would say it was almost twice as long, Maddie, or at least like 50% longer,
Sure.
and right, something like that, and definitely sort of comedically leaning. And Maddie is just like so fun and just funny, and there were these moments, particularly this scene with the ice cream shop woman, that just immediately grabbed me out of what was a really well written short. And I was like, let's classic filming, let's focus on the suffering. And so over the course of that sort of development process, we found this melancholy piece of this woman's life she's just flailing a little bit. And that's what I think interests me as a filmmaker with characters, with human beings, is when we get to see their imperfection as part of what makes them whole people, as opposed to maybe the traditional arc of I'm not fixed and now I'm fixed. So yeah, and working with Wyatt, I mean, Wyatt's a pretty big actor, if you guys recognize him, and Maddie's this brilliant writer and actress with just a very quirky, individualistic expression, artistic expression. So it was maybe the most fun I've ever had shooting a project.
Well, the fun comes across for sure, but it's, you're dealing with a very, serious issue of healing.
Yeah.
And how we, gosh, Wyatt's character is dealing with his grief in one way, and then Maddie, your character, is kind of going on this journey, this crazy night. And yeah, the comedy moments in this are just brilliant. You just, the awkward moments that
Yeah.
are so, it's awkward but real.
Right.
Like, Maddie, I just want to talk to you about, the conversation going up to the ice cream stand.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It's funny because the actress who plays Tara, that character, I had never met her before, until like a couple days before she invited me to her birthday. And so it was awkward there too, because I didn't know anyone and I was trying to be friends with people. But she was at my same agency, and so I had seen pictures of her all the time. And so and I had seen her work, and I was like, she's really good. I think she'd be great. And I Facebook messaged her like a real creep and was like, hey, will you be in this movie? And she read the script and was really willing. So I think there was a little bit of that too, because I really tried my best to not make it awkward, but I did, because sometimes you just can't help who you are. And I had her, so I had met her only once before. And then the ice cream shop scene was fun because I don't know if it felt like it was a night shoot, so it was overnight, but also it felt like for some reason, even though we're always crunched for time, it felt like we had more time with that scene for some reason. And so I think we were able to improvise a little bit that moment. And there was like the space leading up to it before. I think it was this continuous shot too. So we were able, like, I could sit in what I was going to do for a second and kind of build that up, which was really great. And it was just like, there was no rush, I think was the key. It was like, let those beats play out, let her like go back. And so I was able to spend time alone while she's getting the ice cream. And I felt really comfortable in that moment, in the uncomfortableness of it, if that makes sense.
Well, it was so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Love you.
You're welcome.
I love it when you guys start picking on each other.
I think that's a part of like, yeah, I think that's a part of the brother-sister relationship that I feel like we kind of have that transcends like friends. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, we're just naturally inclined to be mean to each other, but in such a loving way. And I think that's reflected really well in the film.
Yeah, for a couple scenes when I was driving in the car, Wyatt was in the back of my car, like telling me things that I needed to do.
Oh yeah,
and
literally backseat driving.
Yeah, just backseat driving while I was, and he was just kind of making fun of me, and so the bond really strengthened. I like that you said it transcends friends, aka you're not my friend, Maddie. You're more like my sister.
It can work both ways.
It definitely comes across. It's funny because I would say my brother, who is my younger brother, is very much in the character, like, and he lets your character really have it with what's going on for him emotionally, dealing with this loss. Says, you know what, I've got my own thing, you got to take care of yourself, and then you go off and do it. For I think there's some real universal themes there about just healing, what those processes look like, and being to say, I'm not okay.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, both the so I co-directed this with my filmmaking partner Ryan Welsh, and he and I both have had mental health struggles with anxiety and depression, and so one of the layers I think that we brought to it from from sort of the observer's eye as a filmmaker, because that was the weird thing about this. Usually as a filmmaker, I feel very inside the project. This one, we both had this instinct to watch this character and watch these people do their thing, and we were there to capture that and structure it and form it in a way that what was happening was actually going to get through, but it wasn't something I felt like we were going to insert ourselves into. That being said, watching her struggle really felt akin to our own mental health issues, where you flail with that anxiety, you flail with that depression, and you're you're right there, but you're totally lost. And so that's what we kind of leaned into with her character. And thinking about my wife, who's watched me go through those struggles, how we thought about Wyatt as the brother, watching his sister go through this, but also having his own inner life and his own inner struggles. And we wanted to sort of make sure that was honored as part of that process.
I think it was interesting too, because it was that layer of mental health struggle, and then adding the fact that maybe Carly, the character, was also not okay before this happened too, was something that was a later on thing that I think I was afraid to add for a bit as well, because it felt like that was too personal. And if we did that, then people might, care. And it came up, like, I remember when I added a piece of that and then sent the draft over like really late that night, I think, to like Justin and Ryan and Wyatt and our producers and everything. And it was like, I was so nervous that they were going to be, I don't know what I thought, that they were going to be like, this is terrible, or what is this? This is a joke. Because especially when you're someone, I think, who jokes a lot or is seemingly happy or funny or bubbly or whatever it is, it feels like almost a harder thing to discuss sometimes, because like in the movie, Carly has these highs and these where she's super excited and open and happy to be interacting with people, and seemingly quite lonely, even with the fact that she has her brother. And it was something that I think was difficult, but knowing that throughout added to, I think, the discomfort a little bit, is knowing that she goes through these ups and downs, and knowing what that is like. It was, I mean, I have a real little brother, funny enough too, who is not the same as Wyatt, because he doesn't care as much about what's going on and is much younger in spirit. But it was something that I think I could pull from as well, just that real life piece.
I want to, we lost
someone hated that. See, I knew it. Someone was not going to like it.
Well, actually, I wanted to come over to Samantha and Jenna to talk about, your film has got, it's futuristic, but it's also dealing with this idea that you're taking connections and personal relationships kind of out of the hands of fate, and there's a microchip that tells you. So tell us more about Bliss's Orange.
Sure. So yeah, that's like kind of it in a nutshell, is that everyone has a chip in their wrist that has like a 50-foot radius and matches your compatibility level with those around you. And there's like a color scale. And everybody in the world has one green match, and then 300,000 red matches, and then 500,000 yellow matches. And finding your green match is just, I mean, it's like winning a gold medal and the lottery at the same time. It just never happens. And this young woman is at work, and then her wrist lights up green. She's at a coffee shop, and a couple walks in, and then her match is there. So that's like pretty much the main premise.
Sure. Well, where did this come from? Where did this concept come from? I don't know if Jenna wants to speak to that, or
Well, Sam wrote it.
Sam wants
she could probably
that,
speak better
yeah.
to that.
Where did this idea come from for you?
So I mean, honestly, I just kind of wanted to write something that was sci-fi, but I wanted to make it grounded, and I wanted to make it a little bit different. I wanted it to focus on like relationships and connections. And then this, I mean, it just, the idea just kind of like came to me in the shower.
Where the best ideas come.
Always.
Yeah.
So like, that's where it came from.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that I loved the idea because we do put so much trust in technology, and we see these percentages on apps, so we're only one step away from those being embedded into our bodies. I mean, and that technology is already in the works. So
Yeah.
how much do you trust it? You know?
Yeah, and like on Netflix, it'll show you, oh, this
Right.
show is like an 83% match. So it's something that like we're used to seeing, but just not used in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching this and going, that's a little real.
Yeah.
that's a little too close for comfort. There's a lot of comedy in this as well. Just the interactions and how the everyday coffee shop ness. So talk about some of the actual directing of this film and how you got that turn in those characters for this really big event that possibly is going to happen.
Right. Well, I mean, they say that half of directing is casting, so I can't take I can take credit for that, but not for how good our actors were. We definitely had a lot of fun playing with the location, and because the technology lights up different colors based on what kind of match you are, we had a lot of fun with production design in incorporating those colors into the world. So if you notice, we don't really see. We see a ton of green in the world because this is such a thing that's weighing on her, and I love the concept of, do you settle and just stay with someone who's good enough, or do you hold out and look for that person who might not be what you pictured but could ultimately be, an unexpected connection. So we played a lot with color and with performance and with movement and kind of feeling the same hectic nature that the main character feels.
Yeah, and the location too kind of became like a source of comedy.
Yeah.
There was one part in the script that was supposed to take place in a closet, and then just because of like production concerns, we decided to take it out of the closet and just kind of put it out in the main where the rest of the action was happening. And I think it actually made it a lot funnier to do that.
Yeah, and I love I do want to point out, given how the movie ends, your phrase "taking it out of the closet" is apropos.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
But yeah, the conversation that I'm guessing you're talking about was in a closet where she's down below the counter and her coworker kind of pops in and goes, "Hey, you got to do a job right now."
Yeah.
It's just, and you're sitting there and going, I can see that. I can see somebody having this moment in a Starbucks and melting down a little bit, and then having to go ahead and be like,
yeah, I think
now.
Prior to all of us being stuck at home, I think we've all cried at work.
Yeah.
We've all had a breakdown at work or cried in Target. I'm not, I'm just, as an example.
I'm just spitballing.
Just brainstorming things
and I think
that other people
all,
might do.
Tried to been forced to have private moments in public,
right?
That we're not thrilled to have in public too. So
yeah, and those are fun to watch.
Yeah, watch.
Right.
Well, I love too how quickly in this film you were able to establish the adapted culture of this new thing, right? The friend pops up and they put their wrists together and you're like, oh yeah, this is like a really accepted thing about this technology. I mean, I'm wondering, just as a sub context, the pushing back on technology as a means, because it's so very prevalent in how we date and how we find relationships or even how we interact with friends. So I'm wondering kind of what you're thinking about the future for our connections and our ability to connect maybe without technology.
Well, and you wrote this in a pre-COVID time too.
Yeah, so my answer is probably a little bit different now than it was a couple months ago. But yeah, I mean, there's no really knowing like where our connections come from, and I think that they only keep coming more and more from technology, like our friendships and just our relationships. So, I mean, I think there's like two sides to the coin. It's like, it's good because there's so many more people you're meeting out there, but it's also like bad because it's like less organic, or like, it's just, I mean, that's just kind of what I was trying to get at with this too. It's like, complicated.
Yeah, and I really like about the scripts that it's not a Black Mirror episode. It's not total doomsday. It's more just like you're saying, this is a part of our reality. What's our relationship with it?
And that exact phrase is, I want to use that to jump right over to Inka, because you're dealing with, I think you're the documentary in our group here, but your connection is to the ocean and the future of the ocean and the reality that people are dealing with right now. Tell us more about your film.
Yeah, so I started diving at a really young age, and I think I've always just been so passionate about our oceans. And it was those kind of initial interactions with the ocean when I was younger that really inspired me to want to go to university and become a marine biologist. But I think that kind of what we picture our oceans to be is so far removed from the reality that they are today. And that was something that I realized more and more growing up. And as I studied marine biology and as I became more involved in the industry, I started to realize that, wow, there's kind of this dream career that I'd always had in my mind just doesn't exist anymore, because you don't have the privilege as often to be able to just enjoy an ecosystem and learn to understand it, because it's being impacted so heavily by all of these different human pressures. So the whole film was kind of based around the things that I'd always wanted to experience, but then kind of the reality of, oh no, but this is what we're dealing with today. And I think that as a young marine biologist, I kind of wanted to also make sure that you're also showing the young people that that isn't the future we have to have. And just because that's the state of our oceans today doesn't mean they have to stay that way. And that was why bringing hope into it was such an important aspect. And I wanted to kind of really show that we are in a really great position where we know the solutions, we know the problems, and it's just a matter of how much we want to do to fix those things.
And hope is another theme in all of the films. There's little glimpses of hope despite dealing with these maybe some kind of heavy issues. But also I want to talk about, you hearken a lot to your relationship with your father as an inspiration. Like, I'm not swimming in the oceans that he swam in. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think my dad has always been really passionate about the oceans. It's where my love of the oceans first came from. So he's the one who introduced me to diving, to snorkeling, to rock crawling on my local beaches. And it was partly kind of the stories that I remember he would come back with from his travels and tell me about growing up that really just captured my imagination and just got me so excited about, wow, one day I'm going to go dive that reef that you went on. I'm going to see the sharks that you just told me about. And I kind of always had this like bucket list of destinations, because I'd grown up surrounded by these amazing stories. And I think it was very much so that I wanted to have those experiences, but I was just a little bit too late always. And even like some of the places that I did manage to get back to, I'd surface from the dive and in my head, I'd be going, wow, that was absolutely mind-blowing, amazing. I saw like 10 sharks. And all the older divers on the boat would just go, should have seen it 10 years ago. It's like, they were just like, oh, I can never quite get there. And I thought that actually using my dad as almost the bar on what I imagined ocean health to be like has been quite interesting, because you realize that with a lot of young marine biologists, what they consider to be healthy is so far removed from what healthy actually is, because we've just never seen it in our lifetime. And there's that kind of, the typical saying of it is, you have a grandfather who goes, oh, when I was a boy, we caught fish and they were this big, and everyone rolls their eyes. But actually, if you look at the biology of them, fish were that size back then. It's just so hard for us to comprehend because we're so removed from that present. And it's really interesting in that sense. And I just thought that actually using my dad was quite a relatable way to explain that concept that can be quite confusing, because we all have experiences that we hope that we'd be able to pass on to the next generation. And in our oceans, it really is a little bit touch and go as to whether or not we'll be able to do that.
So tell me a little bit about, from having the idea to be a marine biologist to then jumping into being a filmmaker.
Yeah, so I have always been really more creative. I think science was something that I've always been really passionate about, but it's hard. And I think creative sides of things always came much more naturally to me. So I loved photography. And whenever I was underwater and I was exploring these environments, I was often taking photos, and I realized that actually I could share those messages much better through my photography. And in science, because it is a hard subject to get into, it's really hard to bring the general public into those conversations, because you get bogged down by so much jargon and so much theory. And actually, unless you study a degree for 4 years and then go on to do a PhD, being a part of those conversations can be really difficult, because you're just almost weighed down by the amount of scientific information that goes into these papers. But using my camera, I could actually take those concepts and that messaging that was so important to reach the general public and make it into something that's accessible. And not only accessible to educate people, but in an accessible way that it might also inspire people to do things differently and to change their relationship with the ocean a little bit. So I see film as kind of being very, very hand in hand with science, and is a fantastic resource to be able to take that marine biology and take that research and make it just a lot more accessible.
You know, I think that's a theme that I can see in all of your films, is this idea of accessibility to, whether it is, you know, the idea of being open and being sex positive, to our emotions, to, you know, that girl talk in the stalls. I mean, having these connections, being able to talk about some issues or how we navigate the world. And I think that's just a wonderful thing, and yet another reason why everybody needs to come and see all of your films. But also I want to, Inka, just with being the Woods Hole Film Festival, we do have such a strong relationship to the ocean for where we are. And I'm wondering, what advice do you have for a scientist who is trying to explain their science in storytelling? What would you tell them?
I think one of the hardest things for scientists is that we expect them to be able to do everything. And I think if you're trying to be a science communicator and you're also trying to be top of your field in your research, that's a really hard thing to do. And I don't think it's fair for us to expect scientists to be able to do it all. But I think that those scientists should absolutely reach out to young filmmakers, young journalists, and say, hey, here's my research. I'd love if you could help me make this into something that can reach a bigger audience. And I think collaboration and teamwork is so important on that level. And I'm sure there are tons of young documentary filmmakers who would be over the moon to be reached out to by a scientist for some interesting research they want to make more accessible.
All right, so everybody who's watching and listening, you just heard your call to action right there. I want to give everybody a chance to kind of, as our time grows a little short, I want to make sure that we all get a chance to go around and say, you know, now that your film is out there, it's being seen, are you working on something new? What's next for you? And then what's one reason why somebody who's watching right now needs to sit down and watch your film? So with no preparation to think about it, Justin, I'm coming to you.
I somehow knew that was going to happen. So yeah, we just finished another film, kind of a Black Mirror-esque sci-fi that's about ready to hit the circuit now. And we've just got, you know, irons in the fire, a couple of features in development kind of thing that hopefully will happen soon. And then I think people should watch Oh Sorry if they have ever felt that sense of being lost, particularly when they're young. Because I think it's really cathartic to sit down and watch somebody go through that and poke and prod and go in all these directions to try to heal that, only to discover that it's kind of accepting that that's a part of life, that's sort of the first step of that healing.
Maddie, I'll come to you to continue that.
Yeah, Wyatt and I worked on another short film last summer that Wyatt co-directed and I wrote and acted in, called Writer's Block. And so that's doing the festival circuit as well. And it's a psychological thriller. And Wyatt really got to tell me what to do officially in that one for a lot more. And then I've written some TV shows and features, so also just keeping that going and hoping to make more things soon. And then I think people should watch Oh Sorry. Yes, definitely. I echo what Justin says. And also I think if you've ever felt like you knew something was wrong, but you didn't quite know what it was, I think just taking the pressure off, knowing exactly what the bad feeling or the discomfort comes from, I think it's kind of nice to just go in and watch it and for the journey, and not as the goal to get better, but just the goal to maybe acknowledge that something's off.
Yep.
Wyatt?
Yeah, like Maddie said, I worked on a short film with her. I got to co-direct that, and just been sending in self-tapes and working on that fun stuff as the industry is kind of wild right now. But I think people should watch Oh Sorry, because I think there's a really strong message that you talked about, which was being able to say that you're not okay and you don't have to be tough and strong all the time, and being able to admit to others that you're close to that not everything's all right, and you actually do need to reach out, and you have those connections that can help you. So I think it's a good message to send to people.
And Wyatt has a Netflix show on called I Am Not Okay With This that everyone should watch that he's not talking about, but it's a great show and he's great in it, and it's on Netflix. It's streaming.
Thanks, Maddie.
So binge it.
So right after you're done watching your Woods Hole Film Festival films, you can go and binge that on Netflix. There you go.
Easy.
Thank you, Maddie.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm coming to Jenna for Bliss is Orange.
I've also been writing like you guys, and this film has gotten into a couple other film festivals that we're pretty stoked about. I don't know, some of them we're not allowed to say yet, but keep an eye out for that, I suppose. That's super exciting. I'm actually gearing up to assistant direct a Hallmark feature with a ton of COVID protocol in place, so that should be very interesting to see what this new world looks like. I'm very curious, and also, like Justin, have some features in development at various stages that I'm either in front of or behind the camera on. And if you like horror movies, I'm in a couple of them on Netflix as well.
Sweet.
Oh, and I think you should watch the Bliss is Orange, because I think we should all be open to the idea that love will not always come in the packages that we expect.
Yes. Samantha.
So next I'm gonna eat breakfast. I've been working on a couple different pilots, so just kind of like developing things right now while I'm at home. I would say that you should watch Bliss is Orange if you want to remember what it's like to unexpectedly run into someone in public. But yeah, it's just like it makes you think. So if you want to use your brain a little bit, then why not?
Any aspirations to expand this at all, or?
I mean, I would love to. There's so many different directions you could take it. So yeah, I hope so.
Well, I will speak for myself. I'd sit and watch it if you did.
Thank you.
Which actually brings me down to Caroline.
So what's next? I filmed a feature film during lockdown. I was acting in a film called Host, which is launching. It's being premiered tomorrow night on AMC's Shudder. So we're sort of doing that for the next few days. And then we are, and then Stalling It is going to be, we're in the process of writing and sort of putting together a series pitch for it, because we think it would be fun to make more of it because it's a fun film. And yeah, I think that you should watch Stalling It, because I think we all have those moments in life where we haven't got a clue what we're doing. And it's nice to know that other people also don't know what they're doing, probably most of the time. So I think that's fun to know. Yeah, I think that's that.
Great, thank you. Super exciting. Now, Russ.
Yes. So I'm developing lots of different projects right now, all with like strong, confident, fun, queer Arabs who are just hilarious and lots of color, lots of music, very entertaining. I'm releasing a mini documentary in a few days where I'm in front of the camera. It's me and my boyfriend's trip to Jordan, where we traveled as a gay couple and filmed an art video in the middle of Jordan with, it's like a gay love story, basically. And what we were facing in Jordan and the comments we got for looking like we did, etc., etc. So that's coming out, and then let's see why you should watch 1-1. I mean, especially if you're single and you need like some inspiration to how to behave on a first date, then it's like perfect. Yeah, just your typical normal behavior, and yeah, how to land that partner, you guys.
Yeah.
Steal the deal.
You get the playbook right there.
Yes.
I will say that if you find somebody that will put up with what they put up with, you keep them.
It's forever.
But actually, that was like the main, my main focus, because when I was single, I used to do all kinds of crazy shit with the people I was dating. Like I was behaving so insanely every time just to check like how much craziness they could handle. And,
Great.
I think that's a tried and true method. I love it.
I mean, mostly I would only meet them once. That was like how much people could handle me. But my current boyfriend, yeah, he passed the test for sure on our first date. And it's been a wild ride for 3 years, and every day is crazy. And I mean, he's the right guy because he's totally like riding along.
I love it. I love that. The dating advice we're getting first thing here in the morning is wonderful. Thank you.
And also, one last thing, I used to live in Cape Cod, so it's so funny that, I was a nanny for a gay couple in Cape Cod for like in Provincetown. So it's so funny that, yeah.
Well, hopefully you get to come back some point.
Sure, I will.
All right, and last but not least, Inka.
I'm currently working on like a little mini series that will go out on social media that actually accompanies the film My 25 The Ocean Between Us, and it goes a lot more in depth into some of the science that is within the film. And I just wanted to kind of give some of the marine biologists that I was working with and a kind of a bigger opportunity to really go a little bit more in depth into the research. So I'm excited to be putting that out soon. And I'm also currently working for Wild Space Productions, and we're making a big new ocean series, which I'm really excited about. So that's going to be coming out over the next couple of years. And then as for why you should watch My 25 The Ocean Between Us, I think if you are interested in the oceans or you have a love for the oceans, then it's definitely one to check out, because you get some really unique perspectives on different communities and how they interact with the oceans. And I think it's really interesting looking at conservation from that really local perspective and seeing how different communities have managed to work together to actually treat their oceans with such an amazing level of respect, and how they're working to build their oceans back. So it's pretty inspiring from that perspective too.
Wonderful. I want to say how much I've enjoyed talking with all of you and watching your films. And for our audience watching, hey, it's the 29th Woods Hole Film Festival. These films are online now through August 1st. Please take the time to watch these films and connect with the filmmakers. And thank you so much, especially for those of you who got up super early to be with us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the internet.